Hello, hello. Wow, what a
Hey
great
guys.
countdown we just had. That was awesome. So hello everyone. My name is Lexi Jackson. I'm Client Success Specialist here with the Sync Center. And today I have joining me the usual John Pashada, as
Hey
well
guys.
as a special guest, Eric Ziegler. Hello, hello
Hi.
everyone. What's up?
Hey
So
guys.
I am so excited to talk with you, Eric, today. I'm so sure John is as well. We are
Yeah.
actually talking today about the Sync School and kind of getting a little bit more detail about Eric's experience, considering he was a former student of the Sync School. He has
Yeah.
since finished the program, and we are really excited to hear about his journey and how things have been going for him since he finished up. So, yeah. I do want to say also that speaking of our past session of the Sync School, we do have an upcoming session starting on Monday, June 13th. So if you are interested in learning more about sync supervision, clearance, music supervision, all of that jazz, just check out the link in our bio and the caption, wherever you're watching this, in the description. Like, it's going to be around there somewhere. Click that link, and that will give you all the information that you need to learn more about it.
Hmm.
So, yeah, super awesome. I'm really excited about
It's
that.
gonna
But
be
without
fun.
further ado, yeah, for sure. Let's get started. Okay. So Eric, first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah. So hi everyone. My name is Eric Ziegler. I am first and foremost a musician. I've been a musician since I was about 7 years old. In more recent years, I've taken on roles such as a sync licensing agent for a company called Panther LLC, as well. I'm also a aspiring music supervisor as well.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what brought me to this whole experience was my love and fascination for this corner of the industry.
hmm And
Yeah, that's
what
awesome.
got you into it, Eric? What made you think about sync first originally?
So that was something to where I went to Full Sail University. I have a bachelor's of sciences in music business, and one of
Yeah.
the courses that was taught was music supervision. And
Mm.
I didn't know what it was. And once I took that course, I was like, oh, this is it. This right here, this is it. This is what I'm full steam ahead,
Yeah.
laser focus. I know exactly what I'm going to be working towards. Um, and then that kind of triggered a chain reaction of thoughts of thinking back to like my childhood and Friday movie nights with the family and hearing all these amazing soundtracks from so many different films and
Mhm.
realizing I've actually kind of wanted to do this all along. I just
hmm
didn't know what to call it.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
I can
what?
definitely relate to that for sure. With the not realizing, knowing that there it's something, but not knowing what it's called, and then having that epiphany of, oh, that's what that is. Yeah, I totally want to go for that. We have very similar backgrounds in that regard, so I can definitely relate, and that's really cool that you took a course and kind of just realized, oh, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, good question, John. So, speaking of questions, I'm going to ask one myself.
Yeah.
So, the Sync School, for those of you who don't know, is a 5-day training course where we kind of go into the ins and outs about what sync and supervision all entails and what it means to be a music supervisor and how to go about doing that to get yourself started in that career. So, considering Eric, you already had this goal in mind of becoming a music supervisor and you knew a little bit about it, what would you say you enjoyed the most about the Sync School, given your history and what we talked about during that session?
Yes. So, no, I mean, there's a few things that I really enjoyed about this thing school. I want to say that my my favorite part of it was the actual putting music to various scenes, figuring out various scenes from TV and from film, and um, putting the actual act of putting the music to that, and even more so finding alternatives for that. You know, even
Mm-hmm.
figuring out, okay, this fits really well, but what if I want to do juxtaposition, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
And try exploring with that, because music supervision is so much more than that. Music supervision is, I mean, I would argue that it's actually mostly administrative. A lot of, or at
Yeah.
least a lot, admin stuff and legal stuff. But
Mhm.
that
Mm-hmm.
part of it, that creative part of it, has always been my favorite, because that's what kind of really drew me in for that class at Full Sail University. That was a we did a little bit of that as well there, and that was like by far my favorite part, because it's so satisfying when when you finish it up and you get to look at that and hear a completely different um, uh, uh, way of going about that scene, and
Right.
different
Right.
music can really change the emphasis on a scene.
Yeah.
It has so much effect on it. It's so much.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I enjoyed about it was that aspect of, like you said, putting music to scenes. But I really enjoyed seeing people's interpretations of
Mm.
the same scene, because there were a couple people who did the same scene, but then the music they chose was like so different. They had such different viewpoints they were coming at it with. And I thought that was so cool, because that really kind of speaks to the spirit of why music is so important
Mm.
in media, because it really can impact how a person perceives what they're visualizing. And I think that that was just like really cool to like watch happen for some people for the first time, because like you
Mhm.
had experience doing that type of work because of your time at Full Sail, but there were other people who had never done anything like that before. So that was like really cool to see too. So, and it was also
Mhm.
cool to like watch you kind of grow along with the class as well, to see where everyone, because everyone was coming from such different
Yeah.
places, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's exactly right, guys. I mean, that's a great jumping off point, because it really starts to get the juices flowing as far as on the nose or inversions or options or surprises or
Mm-hmm.
unexpected approaches, all those kind of optionality options around it. It's like we were talking earlier, Lexi. It's like filmmakers, ad executives, they have done this maybe a handful of times, maybe no prior experience. So they kind of think they know, they have an idea of what they want to start with, but it's really up to us, the people managing the supervision for the project, as far as just bringing half a dozen options that they would have never thought of, and just saying, look, here's an approach that takes this approach,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of having that in your back pocket. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah. So let's see. Eric, I also wanted to ask, so given everything that you learned both before the sing school, during the sing school, what would you say was the impact that the sing school had in terms of helping you in your career so far, like moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. And like we were, just discussing, it's going to be different for everybody. Like everybody's going to have a different impact, because it
Mm-hmm.
depends a lot on also where you came from before. Like I took courses before I went to the Sync school, so there was already like that base knowledge of what music supervision was.
Sure.
The Sync school kind of helped fill in some of the, like for me, it was a lot of filling in the gaps, right?
Hmm.
For me, there
Mm-hmm.
was, because I want to learn as much as I possibly can. I don't want to miss out on anything. For other people, it may have been, the first time that they're learning anything about supervision,
Hmm.
Right.
and everybody's got a different use case. And so, with that being said, I think it's also going to have a different effect afterwards. It's going to have a different effect post,
Hmm.
what you're going to do, because you know the way that it helped me was that it was afterwards. I now kind of had a lot more knowledge and a lot more confidence
Mm-hmm.
going forward.
Right.
Going because I I now feel more confident about how much I know and about my abilities. Um,
Yeah.
so that really enabled me to, okay, here's what I do know, and now more just as importantly, I know, here's what I don't know. I need to go find this.
Right.
Um,
You
Yeah.
mentioned your gaps, Eric.
mhm.
What were some of your gaps going into the sync school?
So some of the gaps that the things that I didn't have a whole lot of experience with, for instance, was filling out Q sheets. For instance, like like that's a very, 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 very integral part of music supervision. Like you got to be able to fill out the Q sheets. You got to be able to have that everything packaged up really pretty and then send it off. Like that's integral, especially if you're working for a company like Netflix or Amazon.
Hmm.
You have to have that down packed. Um, and that was something that I didn't have a whole lot of experience with, and I was really happy to do that, because as much as I am somebody who has a large creative side, I was started out as an artist.
Hmm.
I also have a strong admin organizational side to me as well. Like I'm one of those people that gets really excited when I fill out the Excel spreadsheet and I do conditional formatting, so that when you fill out the last column, it all lights up green or blue or whatever. And I get excited to buy stuff like that. So, um, but I also recognize how integral those are to the entire process. So yeah, that
Hmm.
was definitely a big gap that I went and got filled in with the singing school.
Yeah, that's great. And so
Yeah.
for day one, we talked about how music works, talked about passion and competence, how music gets valuable. We talked about the food chain. We talked about who's who in the zoo. What is a sync license? What is a supervisor? What problems do supervisors solve? Terms. We talked about leverage in sync. And then we did the feature film project where we
Mhm.
picked a 3-minute spot from a theatrical release. I mean, there's a lot. That was just day one. So I'm as we're going into it next week with the new group. It's like this is a lot of drinking from the fire hose. There's a lot of information here that I mean, it's a pretty it's a just the day one alone is a really good deep dive. You know what?
Hmm.
Just looking at day one, thinking back on that, Eric, what stood out to you just from day one?
Just from that's tough, because as you said, there's a lot,
Yeah,
and that's because this is a job that has a lot to it. This is a
yeah, it's
job that
whole brain. It's
encompasses,
left and right, like you
yeah.
said. Yeah,
I mean, there's admin aspects, there's legal aspects, there's creative aspects. You have to be kind of a jack of all trades, and but you also can't really be bad at any of those. You have
yeah,
to be a jack of all trades and really
yeah,
good at at all of them. Um,
yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
in term, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. I mean, I think I look back and I think, okay, I see probably the most valuable thing there, but I'm curious, and even from you, Lexi, what do you think from day one really stuck out as like, man, that the conversation on leverage to me is like really important and really
Hmm.
underestimated. Like people don't think of leverage. They just think, oh, I want to be a music supervisor. I want to work in film. It's like, well, leverage for me is kind of the teacher and the trainer on it, that the leverage piece of it permeates everything. Like just this week we
Yeah.
finished Justin Timberlake project. We were supervising a project and we used a Justin Timberlake song. And there's half a dozen different leverage points with each party, so you have to kind
Hmm.
of go. It's not ego, it's just understanding the leverage and communicating appropriately. And
Hmm.
to me, if I were to think, okay, one thing that was like super underestimated would be just starting to think about leverage. Well, I don't know. What was it for you, Lex? What?
You said the biggest thing that was what was the
Yeah, I don't know.
biggest?
Maybe the thing that surprised you the most,
Okay.
or impacted you
Yeah.
the most, just from day one.
Just from day one. Let's see. I would say, man, there were just so many things that we went over. I think just
This,
because I was gonna say I kind of felt a lot of the same when it came to what Eric was saying about the sync school really helping to fill gaps
yeah,
because there's so much of the business side that it's hard to learn on your own. So I
yeah,
think um, on that day one, just as we kind of dove into all the different aspects of what the business side really entailed and
hmm,
kind of gave an outline for the rest of the week. I thought that that was, I don't want to say surprising, but I'll say it was definitely worth explaining and going into detail about because it can be
yeah,
really easy for people when they hear music supervision, especially if they're in the music field, they don't aren't necessarily sync specific. They
right,
may think like, oh, like let me just like send my music to these people, like they're learning how to accept my music and use it somewhere, like but that's like
yeah,
not exactly how it works. And so really just helping other people to understand both within the course and the people in the course, as well as people just learning about the course from the outside looking in, helping them to understand like what it is that we
yeah,
I thought that that was really like interesting and important to
yeah,
like dive into, and we definitely did a lot of that on that day
hmm,
one, really just honing in on what is it exactly that we do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really meant to be foundational, that day one, and then looking at day
Hmm.
two, we talked about the sync license teardown, negotiations, offers and agreements, 20 questions, document,
Yeah, there's a
invoicing,
lot.
and final payments. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna say, with everything that we've kind of talked about, both with all of the, well, we've only gone over a couple days so far, but with all the days that we have topics for within those 5 days, and with everything that you learned, Eric, with everything that maybe built upon because you already knew a little bit about it, but it really helped to strengthen. Would you say, no pressure, would you recommend the Sing School to other people who are looking to get into the industry?
I would. Yes. I definitely would. I think that we're in an age, and if you said this like 5, 10 years ago, nobody would believe you. But we're in an age right now where you can almost get a degree in music supervision. You can go, Berkeley Full Sail offer courses in music supervision. But even if you do that, no matter whether you're coming from a degree program with music supervision or you know next to nothing about it, um, this course right here is going to be able to help. It's going to be able to help no matter what. And
Mhm.
I think that especially if you, I mean, this is good, like life advice, but especially if you want to get into music supervision, you have to get very comfortable with the fact that you will never know everything, but you should
Mm,
always try.
yeah.
And you're never going to know everything, but you should always try to.
Hmm.
And you need to get comfortable with that, because a lot of music supervision is also keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on currently. So you need to be able to keep
Mhm.
up with trends. You
Mhm.
need to be able to keep up with, who, what artists are hot right now. And yeah. So that constant pursuit of knowledge
Mm,
is
That's a
something
really, really good
that's,
point. Yeah.
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 That's why I would recommend it. Like even if you're not, even if you've already taken it, even if you feel like you're good, you should still take it anyways. And I guarantee you, there's going to be something you're going to learn from it.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, but also I agree 100% because even like I said, you were already familiar with the concept. You had some sort of training, and then we had those who maybe they work in the field right now, and they still were able to learn and gain something from it just because of the fact that we helped to explain another way of doing it or another way of
Yeah.
thinking about the same processes that they do every day. And then we also had the people who, like you said before, and like we've covered, didn't necessarily have much of a background or much of an understanding of the role itself. But then once they did, they realized, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do. This is something that I'm interested in learning more
Yeah.
about. And I thought that to be able to have one course that kind of helps to do all of those things is honestly pretty
Mhm.
incredible. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm happy to hear that it was helpful to you as well, and that you would recommend it to other people, especially
Mhm.
considering the new session that we have coming up. So that's definitely good to hear. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think, Lexi, tying into that, yes, it's about lifelong learning. You're never going to know it all. But one of the core things of hacking music and the sync school is the idea of taking action, and you're more ready than you think you are. I think a lot of times we can get
Mhm.
stuck in our head, oh, I don't have a degree for this, or I don't know everything about it. And
Yep.
what builds momentum and what builds careers is just throwing your name in the hat, saying, I can do that for you, and doing it before you're ready. You're never going to know enough. Like right now, y'all are ready to take on projects. You might be a little fancy on some things. You might not know everybody everywhere, and that's okay. But people get stuck in their head and trying to like know everything and be the smartest guy in the room. It's like, just go work on a project. Take on a project. There's so many projects out there that need what each of us at the Sync School have, and it's like it's really kind of our mission to help those filmmakers and help those ad executives, because they're just trying to stay legal. They're just trying to do the right thing, and they know that they don't know anything about this. So having somebody who's, you know, studied it and been a student of it and done some projects, it's there's a lot of people to help.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. That's I think it's important to remember you are valuable. You have value, you bring value, and you should
Hmm.
and sometimes you just kind of need to go for it. What's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right. Yeah.
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 So, yeah,
Absolutely.
it never
I've,
never stop learning, but
yeah.
also realize that you can bring something to the table, and that
Hmm.
you should try to help out however you can, and step forward.
Yep.
Yeah. Saying
Love
yes
it.
to everything and doing everything you possibly can to kind of help yourself advance is definitely a great step in the right direction, especially when it comes to working in this industry, because like you said, John, there are so many opportunities out there. It's just a matter of going for them and finding
Yeah.
them, and not getting in your head about it. I can
Yeah.
tell a million stories about that, because that was definitely one of my biggest problems, thinking that I needed to know every possible thing on day one. And if I
Yeah.
didn't, then I wasn't gonna be qualified enough, or I
Yeah.
wasn't, and
You were
so
ready.
it's really cool to hear also, Eric, that you said, you felt like you gained more confidence in
Hmm.
what you knew, and how you present yourself in this music supervision space because of the Sync School, because that to me means so much. Like that's a really great thing to hear. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this new session and to meet more
Hmm.
people and help them develop and grow their skills, because I feel like I learned something new, even with me, like I said, being in the field as well. Like I feel like I learn something new every time, every
Right.
day. So it's never too early, it's never too late to just go for the things
Mhm.
that you want to help yourself and make yourself great. So
Yep. Love it.
yeah.
Hey, Lexi, I've got a question.
Yeah.
On day 5, we talked about getting hired and becoming
Hmm.
hireable. And we workshopped some role playing between the filmmaker and the music supervisor. And it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, that was
conversation
fun.
we've
Hmm.
done thousands of times. Filmmaker calls us, needs help, 20-30 minute conversation.
Right.
What And some of us were kind of timid or didn't want to do it or felt a little awkward. Um,
Yeah.
and we talked
Hmm.
about like, look, you're going to have to do this now within this group in a safe space, or you're going to do it 2 years from now. Which do you
Right.
want it to be? Do you want it? You want it to be?
Right. You want your
You
first
know?
time to be now
Yeah,
in a room
yeah,
of friendlies,
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right. People that have your back.
yeah,
What did
right.
what did you guys think of the role playing within that conversation between the filmmaker and the supervisor?
Well, I was just gonna say you gave us a couple different scenarios, and I
Hmm.
thought that that was really interesting to also just both be a part of those role playing scenarios, but also to watch as people had different where they were coming from in that conversation. I thought that was really interesting, and it also really helped to real I think for me, because I think I did involve myself in one of
Yeah, you do.
those.
Yeah,
I think for me, it really helped me realize, like, kind of what Eric was saying earlier, like, oh, I do actually like know how to have this conversation, or
yeah,
oh, okay, yeah, this is a lot more um, comfortable for me than I realized. Or, there were, like you said, the people who were timid at first, and then they kind of realized, like, oh, okay, now I know a better way to
yeah.
handle that conversation, or I
Right.
realized, oh, okay, there's a better, maybe not even a better way, but oh, okay, I realize that that's something that I'm gonna need to work on.
Yeah,
And like you said, it's a room full of people who have your back, and that's much better of a situation to
yeah,
be in than to, like you said, have that conversation for the first time with a project, deadline approaching, like all kinds
yeah,
of craziness happening, like it really helps to get you prepared. And the
yeah,
fact that the program kind of ends on that day, of getting you kind of like ready to go out into the world.
yeah.
And that I thought that was a really good like setup too. I want to
Hmm.
hear from you, Eric. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It was. I really enjoyed that. I really thought that was that was well done, because you're right. You do need to be able to do that, and it's better to have it in a controlled environment and to be able to get that take be able to get familiar with that conversation, because it is a conversation you're going to have. And something that a lot of people don't talk about with music supervision, but it is something that's very prevalent, is there's a big political side to music supervision. You need to be able to handle multiple personalities. And I'm actually kind of grateful, because I also come from a customer service background. Um, and so
mhm,
customers, and being able to have a conversation where somebody is very upset from the beginning, and then being able to kind of turn that, and to where you both walk away happy, is a very important skill set.
Hmm.
um, so
oh yeah,
with that being said, it's I think it was very well done. I think it was very well done. And I think there was even a couple instances where some people who were playing the role of music supervisor before were now playing the role of the producer, of the showrunner, of the film director. So
Yeah,
then now you're not just dealing with like one-on-one. Okay, I one personality. You have to kind of realize that this person is going to have a completely different personality, a completely different tint, shade, flavor, what have you. And so
mhm,
you need to be able to adapt to that. You need to be able to kind of
hmm,
get on a level with them, and
yeah,
figure out, okay, what do we both want? How can we both walk away from this victorious?
yeah,
yeah. It kind of goes back to that conversation that you brought up earlier, John, about leverage and realizing who has the leverage in what situation, how you can
yeah,
go about expressing, or I should not necessarily expressing it, but how you can go about acknowledging the leverage
yeah,
that's there, whether
yeah,
you have it or whether you don't, but still making sure that at the end of the day, you're meeting the needs of the project.
yeah,
You're getting the information that you need to help yourself meet the needs of the project,
yeah,
and, while still maintaining those relationships and helping to grow them
yeah,
without causing any future damage or whatever the case is. So it's
yeah,
it's a fun time walking a tightrope
yeah.
sometimes, but I feel like having one-on-ones like that in a, like you said, Eric, a controlled space makes it all the easier when it
Hmm.
comes time to have the real conversations.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of us, I mean, we think it's all about music, but it's really about solving a problem that happens
Hmm.
to be musical, right? So,
Hmm.
sometimes I think beginners can kind of oversell themselves and try too hard
Hmm.
and try to get in a lot of words. and try to really, you know, be everything to everybody and to overpromise. And I think the tone and the message and the successful first call, whatever we want to call that, that interview call, is really about managing expectations and speaking from experience. Um, they just need to know, filmmakers just need to know you've got a process and you've done this and you're the best person for it. You don't
Mhm.
need to like oversell yourself and promise the world, oh, we'll get this done in 2 weeks. You know, it's like this is our process. This is how we've worked in the past, and you know, we'll get you taken care of. We know
Mhm.
exactly what you need. I think
Mhm.
that goes a long way of just, you know, not over promising, but really just speaking to how you work in your process and that you're going to fix that problem for the filmmaker. Uh,
Mhm.
that just helps them go, okay, great. I've got the right person here. Let's hire them. Let's bring them on. And now let me get back to my film. Because they don't want to be spending hours thinking about this. They just want somebody to take care of it for them. And
Mhm.
then they go back to the film. That's a
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a there's a 6-word phrase that I try to live by, and it's useful in general for business, um, but it's also very useful for music supervision. Um, be kind, be respectful, be confident.
mm-hmm.
If you have all three of those things,
I
you
dig it.
can go far.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That literally says it all. That's a great
Yeah.
that's a great way to just kind of
That's
land
a
sure,
great
because
bow
that's
on
like
this
a solid
conversation.
ending right there. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, well, I mean, thank you so much for imparting your wisdom as well as being here to talk about your experience, Eric, and everything regarding the Sing School. It was really, really great to have you there to, learn alongside us, but also really great to hear that your career is, moving forward and you're doing great things at Pamperware. And I'm just really excited where things proceed to go for you because you're definitely going places for sure. Um, Thank you, John, for
Of
once
course.
again joining me. And I really appreciate all of you viewers at home or otherwise checking us out either live or in the comfort of your car whenever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are super excited again for our next session of the Sync School. So definitely be sure to check that out if that is something that interests you. And yeah, any other thoughts, my friends?
Eric, thanks for jumping on and talking. This was great to catch up with you again.
Yeah, of course. It was amazing talking with you both. This was a really enjoyable conversation. And I'm really glad that we were able to have it.
Likewise.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks,
Okay.
Lexi.
Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone. Yeah, no problem. Have a great day, everybody. Mhm.